All right. Thank you for joining us all today. My name is Shelby Carlson, and I'm the 4 H Youth Development Educator in Knox, McDonough, Warren, and Henderson counties for University of Illinois Extension. Today, we are going to talk about plumbing and pipe fitting and the careers that exist within that. So I am going to turn it over to our guest speaker, Craig. And Craig, could I just ask, can you tell us a little bit about who you work for, what's your role within that organization?
Well, again, my name is Craig Buckwalter. I'm a full-time plumbing instructor here at Local 25 in Rock Island. I've been a plumbing instructor for 3 years. I've been in the trade for coming up on 20 years. So I actually got in, I went to college for 4 years, did some other things. I was a paramedic, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And then I found the trade. So it's a blessing in disguise. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Get into working with hands, building things. You can actually drive by buildings and actually see stuff that you actually put together and built and were a part of. It's a great experience, pretty much for anybody getting into camaraderie with coworkers and things like that. It's definitely a good experience if people like to work with their hands, work with the community. Things like this. This is just one part of the program. For the most part, we got about 1,200 people in the field doing plumbing, pipe fitting, which includes welding, things like that, and then HVAC, heating and air conditioning. So there's a lot more to just the plumbing side of it than Local 25, but that's sort of a little synopsis of sort of what we do as an industry.
Wonderful. Thank you. Um, and can you tell us a little bit about how did you decide to pursue your career in plumbing and pipe fitting?
Well, it was something, again, after college, I needed to find something else to do with my life. And again, I just happened to go around to different trades, talking to different people about their experiences, whether it be an electrician or a carpenter. I just happened to come down to the plumbing hall. I applied, and again, you have to take a math test to get in. It's a year. We test every year, so you got to get a 70% on this initial math test to get requested for an interview. After the math test, your interview, and then it's a selection process. And I just got lucky enough to get in on my first try. They put me with, they pretty much, once you get in, they, as the union, is going to place you with a contractor. So it matters if you get in as a plumber or a pipe fitter or HVAC, it matters which contractor that you sort of go with. I got placed with a pipe fitting plumbing contractor, which was Northwest Mechanical in Davenport. And I just started getting shipped off to Monmouth College, different industrial facilities, sort of around the area, and got into to doing it that way, and the cool part about sort of what we do as a union is there's been many people before me that have done everything. So hopefully that they're going to teach me well enough that I don't have to make the mistakes that sort of they did. That's sort of the good part about the union that I've seen is that the training that comes along with it. It sort of helps with the building process. Measure twice and make no mistakes, and then you get the building up in a faster model there. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I'm pretty lucky when I got into the union and get into the plumbing side of it. In doing sort of that information, it has become a sort of a passion of mine. Actually, since I've gotten out here being the instructor, sort of giving back to the union. That's another part of being part of a union or a family, is trying to give back to the people coming up below me. So when I hopefully get a time to retire, we have a good base to keep everything going. I can retire in dignity and then sort of live my life sort of that way. There's a lot of different aspects with the money, retirement, anything that we sort of push here is sort of helpful to anything that you sort of do.
Great. And that was a great overview. And I'm interested if you can share with us anything else of what is the role of the union in this career field? Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, the role, I don't know if typically, I guess role of a union is it's more stable in that aspect. Once you get into the union, it's not like they can fire you or kick you out for no reason. Again, a little part of non-union aspects. If you do something, I guess technically wrong, or you don't get along with a certain person, that particular person can fire you or get rid of you. That doesn't happen here at the union. Just because maybe somebody doesn't get along with you, there's got to be a sort of a bigger process. You have a little more backing to things that sort of happen that way. One things we sort of do have is a nice package. It starts. I mean, everybody wants to know about the money, right? You get into this stuff. You want to make a good quality living. As an apprentice nowadays, first year apprentice is going to start off at about $16 an hour, and just sort of learn as their way going through a field. So we have a 5-year apprenticeship. Every year you get about a 10 or 15% raise, and then a journeyman or journey person sort of works out at about $45 an hour, and then we get overtime and things like that. We got Blue Cross, Blue Shield for health benefits. We have a retirement package. We have a local pension. We have a national pension, and then we have 401k. So there's a lot of good things, especially for younger kids coming right out of high school. If they can get in at 18 or 19 or 20, it's very easy that they can retire at 55 years of age and making more money than they were when they were working. It's especially being retired with 401k and all the pensions that we got, making a good living while they're working in the field. And then as they retire, again, can retire with dignity and not have to worry about paying the bills. Another great aspect that we're trying to get into now is we have what's called a retiree supplement. So the goal of this package, and again, all this stuff is paid for by the union members. That's the cool part about all of our training. All of everything that we sort of do is paid for by the membership. And eventually, and it's going to be within a couple of years here now, we're going to have retirees not having to pay for health and welfare. The membership is going to pay for the retirees' health and welfare. So all those retirement benefits that we get now don't have to go towards health and welfare. It can go for vacations and stuff that as you retire you sort of want to do. So the backing of a union membership has been phenomenal in my experience. It's not easy work. That's the one thing we need to talk about a little bit, is about sort of a work day. You're going to get into hot places, cold places. You're not going to barely sit in an office. You're going to be outside in temperatures. You're going to be inside in boilers and different chemicals and different areas of society that maybe certain people may not go into. So in that aspect, it's dangerous work, but the safety aspect is getting much better nowadays, and the quality of life is sort of what we've come across. It is getting much better.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's great. That was my next question, was to ask you, what does your typical day look like? So you brushed on that for us. Um, can you tell us the difference? I know I, for one, am not super familiar with it, but what's the difference between plumbing and HVAC and pipe fitting?
All right. So initial plumbing is more water, waste and vent, things that most everybody's going to see in a building, setting fixtures, doing things like that. It's sort of weird, but math and science play a huge role in our industry. So you got to be relatively proficient at math and science. A lot of things that people don't understand, temperatures and pressures, how that plays into a waste piping system or head pressure in water piping system. So it's sort of on us to make sure that those systems work correctly. So when somebody happens to use the facilities, it works correctly. Everything is sort of the proper way it sort of does there. So plumbing instances, there's a lot of water, waste and vent, underground piping, and things like that. You get into more of the pipe fitting field, then you're going to start going to industrial facilities, 3M, ADMs, and John Deere's, and things like that. And you're going to get into more of the bigger pipe and more of the welding aspect of the industry. You can work up to 60-inch pipes. Sometimes you're getting even bigger situations like that. So it's more of having to rig pipe and use bigger machineries and things like that. And technically in the pipe fitting field, there's a little more travel work. So with nuclear plants or industrial facilities, you're going to travel to maybe Colorado or something and do a shutdown for 6 weeks and make working 12 or 16-hour days, and maybe going down there with a few different people, getting a hotel or something. So there's a little bit of a variety, and that's another one good thing about the union is we're just not working in this area. So if you wanted to say travel to Colorado or California or even different parts of the world, that's one good thing about the union is there's multiple unions around the country, even around the world now, because we're associated with Canada and Australia now, to do some traveling. So if people like to travel and do things like that, that's more of a pipe fit field and doing shutdowns. And then getting into the HVAC part of it, which is heating and air conditioning, you're going to be working more of testing people's furnaces, setting air conditioner units, heating appliances, setting rooftop units, and dealing more with again, heating and air conditioning parts of that field. So you're going to learn a little bit more of electricity, because dealing with furnaces and different things is all powered by electricity. So you got to learn the basics of how electricity works, how mercury and manometers sort of work with how temperatures and pressures related to how air conditioners and stuff sort of heat up, or not air conditioners, heating furnaces, dealing with refrigerants and things like that, how those processes work, and that aspect.
Wonderful, cool. And within each of those industries, what does the career ladder look like? Are there different levels that you reach? Is there supervisory positions? What does that career trajectory look like in the room for growth?
Well, the one I guess cool thing about, again, part of the union is everybody gets paid the same. It doesn't matter if you've been in 35 years or you've been in 10 years. Once you get out of the apprenticeship, everybody makes that same amount of money. So there's no working back and forth and talking nice to this person and maybe not nice to the other person. Everybody is at the same way. Everybody starts off as a first-year apprentice. You go through the 5-year apprenticeship. Speaking a little bit about the apprenticeship, we have day school now in our apprenticeship. So once you get into the apprenticeship, you're considered a first-year apprentice. You come to school for 6 weeks in a year. We section them out to 2 weeks at a time. So we're going to place you with a contractor. You're going to go into the field and learn that experience from different journey persons. You're going to come to class for 2 weeks, and then you're going to go back out into the field. You're going to do that 3 different sessions for 6 weeks at a time. Then once your 5 years are up, you graduate into a journey person, and then if you want to go higher, there's what's considered what they call a foreman. A foreman is going to be a person that is in charge of journeymen, journey persons, and apprentices, so that you're more in charge of laying out material, making sure people have stuff that they need to get the job done. So if something is messed up, it's on you. But you make a little bit more. You make 10% more than a journey person. And if you want to get even higher, you get into superintendents and general foremans and maybe even owners of companies. So it doesn't have to stop to being a journey person. If you want to own your company, we just had a couple of people open up their own business. They got into being a journey person. Maybe didn't think that the company that they're working for was doing maybe what they wanted. So there was an opportunity there that they hooked up with a couple other people and they opened their own business. So there's a lot of different opportunities to get into. And if you don't want to do any of that, you can just go to work every day as a journey person, be told what to do. And by 3:30, you can go home and forget all about it.
Wonderful. Um, so another question I have for you is, what is it like for maybe a female who's interested in going into this field? Are there many that you work with? And what's your experience with that?
Typically in the past, there has not been too many females get into the industry. What I have seen in the past, I don't know, say 5 or 10 years, is more have been applying and more have been getting in. Right now, as I can think off the top of my head, I think we have 4 women apprentices, and that's probably the most we've ever had at one time. So we actually go in and push that aspect of it, try to get more minorities into our field, including the women, African Americans, or anybody else. We're supposed to have the same amount of apprentices or people in our industry as there are in society. So we push to strive to say this is not just a man's field because it's physical or whatever. Women are pushed to get involved, and from what I have seen, more have been getting in, and everything seems to be working out. I personally have never had a problem with any of them. They all seem to be working phenomenally, really. And the one thing that I have noticed, they are much better workers than the guys. They don't take time off. They don't take smoke breaks. They actually do what they're told. In that aspect, I've never really had a problem with any of them.
Wonderful. Well, we love to hear that you guys are always looking to 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 be well represented with those who are in that career path. And I would, definitely say that it sounds like you would encourage any female or anyone who maybe doesn't feel like they've been represented in this career to consider it as one that they may be exposed to. So you talked a little bit about that needing to know science and math being so crucial to what you do. And I'm curious, what recommendations would you make to high school students who are hoping to go into this career path?
Well, one thing I would recommend is sharpening up on your math skills, multiplying and dividing fractions, changing decimal feet to feet and inches architecturally, things like that. Being able to, I mean, it sounds maybe mundane, but being able to read a stick rule or a tape measure, it's not really something that people sort of think about. And the one thing I would say is most people don't get in on the first try. So if you want to go into like a Menards in the plumbing section, or find a separate path and learn about pipe fittings, learn about offsets, learn about what it takes to sort of do what we do. There are multiple different websites nowadays that you can sort of go down to and get on your math skills to sort of help you in the process of getting in. It's not a necessity, because that's sort of what we do is teach people how to do offsets and how to do takeoffs and things like that. But if you don't like doing math and you don't like doing science, it's probably not the field to get in. It's not anything that you don't have to know about, because again, that's sort of what we teach. But you got to understand, every day you're going to be dealing with math. So you got to be dealing with takeoffs and centers and getting from point A to point B in the quickest possible manner. And again, that deals with a lot of math and science and sort of what we do. So it's not a requirement or anything like that. You don't need to have the minimum aspect you need to have is a GED. College or a high school education is optimal, but we do accept GEDs. And the training we have down here, we've had multiple people come in here and say, we don't really like math. This is not sort of what we do. And they've become, great foremen. So it's something that has been trained. When I first got in, I knew zero about plumbing. I didn't know anything about the field. I had no idea what it was. and I've been trained by some phenomenal people. And now I'm the plumbing instructor. I'm actually getting back and teaching people what I was taught. So you don't have to have prior experience, prior knowledge. The one thing, again, I would say is if you don't enjoy doing that things, you might want to think long and hard about getting into these fields.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like it really gives you an opportunity um, to take those skills, that those math skills and things that we see maybe in the classroom, and put them into practice and see that real world application. So the next time someone says, "When am I ever going to use this?" Um, we can point to this video and let them know. So we've got just a few questions that have come into the chat box, and then I think we'll wrap up for the day and let you get back to your work. So I really appreciate you giving us your time. But um, one of the questions that came in is, what do you think sets plumbing and pipe fitting and that apart from other careers that are maybe in that trades industry that are really centered about being hands-on?
Well, I mean, to tell you the truth, I've never been in an other part of the fields, so I don't know how the electricians or the carpenters sort of do things. But the one thing I have enjoyed being part of the union is a lot of times, they have sort of get-togethers, different things that bring people together. Because the one thing I have found is, especially coming down here at the JTC, at the training side of it, you get to know people, you get to know their families. And then when you get out on the job site and you actually know this person, you know their husband or wife, or you've been around their kids, you're going to actually work a little bit harder for that person. And you're going to want to do a good job and not just screw off and do bad things. And I'm not saying that that happens in non-union or different places, but for my experience, and actually knowing people, getting to know them, knowing about them, it seems to help with the camaraderie on the job site and makes you work a little bit better. And then another aspect of it, you get to know people from different trades. If you go onto the job sites, a lot of times you're going to see the same electricians, you're going to see the same iron workers, and you're going to get to know their families too. You're going to go to the next job and you're going to meet new people and do different things. And that's the one weird, I guess, sort of part about what we do is a lot of times we don't go to the same place every day. It's not like a John Deere where you're going to the same bench and doing the same grinding on the same machine part every day. You're going to different buildings. You're sort of doing different things, going to different areas of the country and that aspect. So in that aspect too, with the money we make, I'm not saying we're not CEO men or anything, but we make a very good living. And we're going to have a very good retirement, assuming that we work our 30 years and that aspect of it. So everything being said, you can make a very good living in what we do, make a very a good amount of friends to sort of do live your life the way you want to.
Awesome. And you talked about that retirement age, that 30 years and then you retire. And you talked kind of about some of the benefits that allow you to do that. Um, is there that mandatory retirement age, or is that something that people choose to keep working once they've put in their time?
Oh no, there's definitely no retirement age per se. 55 is the earliest. You're going to take a 0.5% each year up to 62. But we have journey people out there that are 70 years old, still wanting to give back and work. So assuming that your body keeps up and your mind keeps up, sometimes the older, quote, older people, that their body might not be physically there, but they still have their brains. And that's when you get the apprentice involved and you get those the younger kids. I'm saying getting down in there and digging the ditches and doing the things that maybe the older person physically might not be able to do again, but they have the knowledge. So the one thing that they can't take away from what we've done is the experience we've got is the knowledge. So there's no saying that they're going to kick you out at 65 or 70 or whatever. If you're well enough, you can pretty much work until you whenever you want.
And that's awesome to hear. And that seems like such a great part about that apprenticeship program is really getting to learn from people in the field. 4-H's motto is learning by doing, and it seems like that is really the approach that you all have taken as well. Um,
It's the
So
one
you,
thing that we always try to tell people is we have a 5-year apprenticeship, but that doesn't mean the learning stops after 5 years. Again, I've been in 20 years. I still learn something new every day. And I tell people always strive to learn something new because that's going to keep your brain active. You think you've learned everything, you haven't. Every single day, there's always something different, always something new coming around. Again, with technology, we have computers now and laser scanners and things like that that are sort of, instead of laying out a building with a tape measure and a stick rule, now we have what's called a total station to sort of set it up. And now this technology is sort of building buildings in and of itself. So there's always something to learn, always time to learn it.
and on that note, that you're always learning new things as technology evolves. Do you have any sort of continuing education requirements that you all are supposed to do, or things to keep up your knowledge?
It seems like that's about all we do. It matters how many certifications or how many licenses you have. Me personally, I have an Illinois license, I have an Iowa license, I have a backflow license, ASSC certifications. So pretty much any one of these licenses, say for Illinois, we have to have 4 hours of continuing education every year. For UPC, which is the Iowa side of it, they do it every 3 years. So we got to have 16 hours of education within 3 years. ASSC certifications for say backflow or water quality, you got to come in for 2 or 3 hours for continuing education. So there's always continuing education, assuming you have a certification or a license. That this is something we do. And now that I'm down here doing this job, I'm sort of the one that is in charge of doing a lot of those.
Hey, we get that, absolutely. So for those overachievers that we know exist who like to say they're going to buckle down and they're going to get what takes someone, 4 years, they're going to get it done in 2.5 or 3. Um, are those time requirements of that 5-year apprenticeship and all of that, is that set in stone? Is that what everyone is required to do, or are there people who um, kind of advance through it a little bit more quickly?
No, there's really no advancing faster than anybody else. The one thing I would say is if you worked at a non-union plumbing shop for say 10 years or whatever your experience is before, it is possible that if you get into the apprenticeship, they might give you a year off because you might know already about the basic tools and the basic things that maybe a first year apprentice doesn't know about. So it is possible that if you've done some non-union work and things like that, that you can get time off. But if you get in as a first year and you start there, there's no finishing early. It's a 5-year apprenticeship, and we pride ourselves on teaching people maybe what they think they know, but a lot of times they figured out that they don't know as much as they think they do. So 5-year apprenticeship is sort of the minimum.
Absolutely. That seems like a very well thought out process that you guys have fine-tuned. All right, Craig, I would just ask you now, is there anything that you think we need to know about this career that I haven't asked you about or that you haven't had a chance to cover so far?
I mean, really, I think I've covered most of it. The one thing I keep going back to is making a good living, making good friends, and then being able to retire at a decent age. A lot of people don't quite understand what we do, understanding why we get paid what we do, and then once people start getting into the apprenticeship, and again understanding, we're doing residential fire sprinklers and plumbing licenses and water supply and fixtures and drainage and HVAC and base electricity. There's a lot that goes into the plumbing field and the pipe fitting field, other than sort of maybe just setting toilets or whatever that maybe the jokes are that go around what we do. So I'm not saying it's easy work. You're always going to have things that are challenging to you. That's one aspect that I sort of like, is getting into a building, seeing the challenge of running the water pipe to a fixture. When it's done, I get to set that fixture and turn on the water, and then people get to come up there and use what I have installed. And then I can again drive by the building and say, look at kids, I built the Ala Capri Casino Hotel, and I was part of that process. So a lot of it comes with pride in what we do. working with your hands, being physical, and then good, making a good living and good friends along with it.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you coming out today to share your knowledge with us and tell us about the career